This Choircast podcast is brought to you by the book Used to Go to Church, Rethinking God on the Front Line of Life's Tragedies by Nick Felicities. As a first responder chaplain for over 23 years, Nick blends firsthand accounts of tragedy with opportunity for raw self-examination and reflection. For the spiritual but not religious who want to pursue God outside of the walls of organized religion, Used to Go to Church is an invitation to rethink faith and open up to a life centered on grace, mercy, and love. Find it today on Amazon.
Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast, your journey, actually our journey together beyond inherited beliefs to a spirituality that works for you. I'm your host, Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. We can fix that later, right? No?
Welcome to Unbelief. I am Jeremy.
I'm Gabby.
And, okay, can you name this song? I'm going to do my best with lyrics. I might get it quite a little bit wrong, but there was a man in the desert with naps in his hair. The sand that he wrote was that he walked was also his bed. The words that he spoke made the people assume there wasn't too much left in the other room.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I didn't think so because we are many years apart. That was the major hit, Christian music hit from my high school years. It was by a band named DC Talk, and it was this album called Jesus Freak. And this is like, I'm trying to think. This is like peak. Well, it's just after the peak grunge music time, right? And so this album sounded very much. That song sounded very similar to like a like more pop friendly version of Nirvana.
Oh.
So I know that you didn't recognize the DC Talk, and I am a little bit disappointed. But at the end of the episode, we like want everybody to sort of stay tuned for our recommendations for songs that will lead them astray, secular music, songs that are really good right now. So everybody, you just gotta, even if you get bored, just fast forward to the end.
Yes, please.
The Spotify playlist is in the show notes. Yeah. So, but when I was growing up, that was really the beginning of the massive Christian music industry. And at the time, it was really focused on like performance, like pop performance stuff that was often like sounded like some other artist. And when I was like really young, you had a couple of crossover artists that went from Christian to like popular. There was one like Michael W. Smith, then it was Amy Grant, and so and that whole thing was all about like, using the Christian version.
Yes.
So in your life growing up, what was the Christian music scene that you were exposed to?
Yeah, so I would say growing up, I don't know, I probably had regular kids music that my parents would play. And then what became revolutionary was coming upon the radio station K-Love.
Oh man, K-Love. Oh,
K-Love,
wow. They really dominated the market once they came out.
Absolutely. I mean, my mother, I think literally I was just scrolling to like listen to something in the car, and like we found K-Love, and she like obsessed. Like I don't think we ever listened to anything else in the car. Yeah. And so of course K-Love played all like the pop music in the early 2000s, you know, like listening to a lot of Carrie Job and Toby Mac.
Right.
And
so Toby Mac.
Yeah.
Toby Mac is DC Talk is where he started.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That thing that was a rap. He's doing that rap. And it was like rap plus grunge music. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it was very much was like this Christian pop music that I would listen to. And so my mother, because we would listen, it was my entire family, we found Chris Tomlin. That was actually the first concert that I went to. It was a Chris Tomlin. And I remember it was like Worship in the USA, which now that I look back, I'm like, definitely was very Christian nationalist coded.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
But I enjoyed him. It was my first concert.
Yeah.
But I remember at that concert on the screen, one of his songs featured Lecrae. And that was the first time I heard a Christian rapper.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is the type of music that I love. I became obsessed. I mean, I started listening to all of Lecrae's music. I bought it because back then I'd buy music on iTunes.
Right, for sure.
For $1.25. And I literally have been to like honestly 8 of his concerts. Like I loved Lecrae. I still honestly love his music. He's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was me. My first concert was actually, my first concert was DC Talk opening for Michael W. Smith. So like Michael W. Smith was like the mega star. Right. It was in an arena.
Oh, cool.
Right. And I was obsessed with DC Talk. I found them first time. They played on a show called the Arsenio Hall Show.
Okay.
And so when they talked about this concert in like a city, like a couple hours away, I like begged my youth pastor to take us and we went. And funny story, like DC Talk just exploded, became the Christian band.
Yeah.
And years later, because I went to 1,000 of their concerts as well.
Yeah.
Years later, I saw Michael W. Smith open for DC Talk at Disney World.
Oh my gosh, actually?
Yeah.
Wait,
they
so
had this
fun.
thing called Night of Joy where Disney got in on some of the profits of the Christian music industry.
Look at that.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Okay, so Lecrae was what was the Lecrae song?
Oh my gosh, I can't even remember.
The anthem of your childhood.
He was featured on one of Chris Tomlin's song, and I can't remember which one it was.
What was your favorite song? Was there one that you just like kept?
The Gravity
playing?
album was my favorite. I think I loved the song Gravity on there.
Okay.
I also loved, oh my gosh, I am drawing a blank, but if you play it, I can literally rap it to you. There's one about like being, I can't remember. It's going to slip my tongue.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I had like, we had like paper folders like in school, and I covered all of my folders with lyrics from DC Talk. Like I had a 6 foot tall DC Talk poster on my wall.
Actually?
Yeah. So, and like for me, that was the introduction to a whole world, like a whole Christian subculture world that like there was Christian novels and Christian magazines and there was Christian breath mints.
Yes.
Did you ever have testaments?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
They're like mints with a cross embossed in them.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I mean, I think what you're saying is so true. I think when I definitely opened up into Christian music, I was like, oh, there's Christian, a lot of things. I got really into Christian merch and wanting to wear stuff that said like, Jesus loves you and whatnot.
Right.
And then buying journals that had like Bible verses on them. And I actually just saw someone who posted on her story for Easter, holy water. I was like, it was holy water. It's specific.
You could buy it.
Yeah, you could buy holy water. Yeah. It's supposed to like cleanse you.
Yeah,
you know?
like you can go. So a lot of Catholic churches and all the like Catholic, like monasteries and cathedrals, they have like a store.
Yeah,
and you can buy holy water and all kinds of.
I didn't realize
fun things.
Yeah.
So, So then. I got really into books by a guy named Frank Peretti, who wrote like Stephen King style.
Okay.
And there was this one book called This Present Darkness, and it had a sequel called Piercing the Darkness. But it was all about like angels and demons. But it was like the story is like you and I. Like, and there's some conspiracy. I can't even remember the like plot line, but like what we are doing is like being influenced by angels and demons who are like, there's demons that are like trying to possess you and whatever. And like at that point, it was the New Age movement.
Oh, wow.
And like people believing things that weren't Christian. And and I remember like that informed so much of my theology, the like angels and demons influencing me. Holy cow.
I mean, you just said New Age. That was like a buzzword of like the New Age, the new Age. To like, I remember just you have to be careful of the New Age. Be careful of yoga and meditating and the chakras and all this. I'm like, okay, the New Age, and I remember people would say, or pastor would say, postmodernism is a danger.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, postmodernism actually isn't what I thought it was.
Right, I know.
You know? Right. Let's talk about critical thinking, and maybe there is an objective truth, right? But and so I remember this being like, oh, I have to fear these things because that are in the world.
Yeah. And I think, the thing that the phrase we were talking about earlier that I heard a lot, I think you heard a lot, was like guarding your mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I remember that being taught in like, Sunday school at my church, and just making sure to surround yourself with Christian thinking, Christians in general, and like Christian stuff, which is why I believe I grew up only listening to Christian music.
Yeah.
And exactly when I went to college, I was like, I would listen to, I'm half Hispanic. So like I liked my bachata and merengue that I listened to and whatnot. And like my other songs that I had saved from high school. But I remember there was a sermon actually that was preached in my Bible study. And the pastor said, someone asked like, hey, pastor, should we be listening to secular music? And he was like, well, like, I'm not going to tell you no, but pretty much like, if you're trying to get closer to God every day and you're listening to perverted music, you are defiling your garden and actually not helping yourself become more holy. So I remember my friends and I, we all deleted all of our secular music from Spotify and we only listened to Christian music.
Oh, this is interesting. You deleted it.
I deleted all the playlists and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm about to
I'm assuming you deleted me.
I'm about to date myself. Okay, so I grew up before the internet really. When I was in high school, the internet was just starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
So it was all physical media.
Okay.
So it was CDs. There's this thing called Columbia House where you could pay like, I want to say it was like $1.
Okay.
And they would send you 10 CDs for $1 plus shipping and handling. And then you were subscribed to their CD of the month club where they would ship you a CD.
Okay.
And if you kept it, you had to pay some number of dollars, like retail price, like $15. If you returned it within the amount of time, then you'd have to pay. And so they got you because you didn't return it. You forgot whatever. And so I had this CD. It was like a binder. Mm-hmm. It had 200 CDs in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had heard a similar sermon about secular music.
Yeah.
And when I was at this like Christian music festival, it was called Atlanta Fest in Atlanta, Georgia. They had like vendors, right? Like booths or whatever. And I was going through and there was this one booth where this guy had documentaries that he had made about secular music and the dangers of secular music.
Yeah.
And it was like, one of them was called Hell's Bells. And it went into like, some of these bands worship Satan and like all of this crazy stuff. And so I got really deep into this, like secular music is dangerous. There's demons attached to it. And being who I am, I started to convince my friends because I was scared of them going to hell because of the music and or like being possessed by demons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started to convince them to throw away their secular music CDs, like deleting.
Yeah.
I didn't have any secular music CDs. So I was safe. But like I was talking about to my one friend who was like into Nirvana, and I was like, you got to get rid of that. And eventually a group of us, like a group of my close friends who I convinced all of this stuff, shown them Hell's Bells and these other videos. We did like a supercut of all these different documentaries and had a presentation to our youth group. And then I invited them over to my house to burn CDs.
Oh, wow.
And we burned all these CDs. And then another youth group invited us to come do it at their youth group. And we did it again. And then it all kind of came apart when some new kids came into our youth group. We did it again. And one of my friends wanted to host it at his house, the burning. He had like a metal barrel thing.
Yeah.
So we started the fire. People were throwing their CDs in. And then my friend came with some secular novels and threw the books in the fire. And at that point, I made the connection. I was like, whoa. Wait a second. I had seen Indiana Jones and I had seen the Nazis burning the books, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
what have I done?
Dang.
Yeah. So, like, I'm curious, when you think about this guarding your mind stuff, like, what seems problematic about it?
Yeah, I think and maybe we're similar in this way because I feel like I take things to a bit of an extreme. And so,
okay, same.
Right. So when they say guard your heart, it's like, I have to do this.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's problematic because one, like, I think if anyone is too extreme on anything, it's not healthy. You know, there needs to be a balance, of course, because then you end up burning books. You know?
God, please. So ashamed.
I mean, it was a time that was had back then, you know? So with all of, yeah. But I will say, like, this is when you're talking about your story, like, it made me think of, like, I remember music being such a big deal in the Christian community because people would always say, well, you know, Lucifer was the angel of he was a worshiper.
I had forgotten about that.
And so that was brought up so many times, like, you know, the devil will tempt you through music.
Yes.
You have to be careful, which is why people would text me before I legit showed Jeremy 2 weeks ago a text from someone this was years ago when I was walking into a store to order food. She's like, sister, be careful for the music being played over the speaker. The Lord told me to tell you to be careful.
Oh my God.
And it's just like,
that's extreme.
It is extreme. And I'm like, this music. And then I remember she came in and it was a pop song. By the way, I danced. So I was like, I can't avoid secular music. Yeah. I dance. Like we listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, remember what I said, sister? Cause I was like singing along and I'm like, okay. And I remember like in my Bible study, we would talk about like, I don't know if you got into conspiracy theories, but like World Trade Order came up and like Katy Perry used to be Christian. And like now she's like, I remember like, I think it was either Jay-Z or like, who's the one who sings on, I think it is Jay-Z, about like these artists selling their souls to the devil and that's why they became popular.
Oh yeah,
and that stuff would freak me out.
Oh
and
yeah.
so we would talk about it, be like, okay, I need to really be careful.
Well,
with
that's
secular.
all up in the Hell's Bells documentary.
Okay, well,
in fact, I need to find it on YouTube. Somebody's got to have uploaded that.
Yeah, and so I just remember this, like, music was talked about because of, like, Lucifer's, you know, position in heaven, because of all these conspiracy theories, what it can do to you and, like, distract you from, like, becoming more sanctified and whatnot. And so I remember my playlist was all Hillsong worship, Hillsong Young and Free, like Chris
Every
Tomlin.
version of Oceans.
Literally every version. I have listened to all of it, right? And then, of course, I became a worship leader, so it was important for me as a worship leader to be in my mind throughout the weeks as I would set up for my set list to be listening to music. And so I very much was conservative, I guess, in that sense, and would feel bad when I'm like, I just want to listen to like a salsa song or something or a pop song.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I didn't answer your question, but
no, it's not like Taylor Swift. Like, what are you gonna do? Right?
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest Taylor Swift
No, I'm just
fan,
saying,
but
like,
yeah.
you can't escape it.
You can't.
right?
The music's playing. I mean, God forbid you walk into a supermarket, they're playing music.
That's
like,
the most. That is this text message blows my mind. Like
how am I supposed to? You want me to walk in with headphones and not be aware of my surroundings? That's a safety issue, especially as a woman. Like it's to an there is problematic because like now we're taking things to extreme that's not feasible. I can't block it out all the time. You know.
Well, right, and this. It's part of this. It's part of this indoctrination and like brainwashing. This is one of the like classic brainwashing techniques where you separate people out from any group, person, any concept that could possibly challenge what this thing that you are trying to indoctrinate people.
Right.
And so then, but that's like not good, like psychologically. And it's part of these bigger, there's like a host of issues that like work together to create the environment for like the most damaging things that happen in church.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like if I can't read a non-Christian book, right?
Yeah.
If I can't engage in like understanding like basically psychology, like all the things,
right?
Then they have more power, like more control.
No, I completely agree. I think definitely this secluding makes you feel like, okay, if we just surround ourselves around Christians, then there's no reason for you to have to interact with the world. But that also begins to develop a fear for the other, which is why I feel like people, when they try to deconstruct, are scared to step into the world because they were taught to fear it for the longest time, right? And I remember I really loved sermons. I got really into sermons. I would listen to them walking to class, when I was an undergrad. One of them was like the dangers of worldly desires by David Platt. And I remember it was basically all the things the world offers you, you need to be careful, right? Like you shouldn't be listening to music and media. Like my pastor's extreme was like, I don't even watch movies because movies aren't glorifying to God. Like, especially how are you going to watch a movie that has violence in it and death? That's not glorifying to God, you know? And so I remember there was what was the Broadway show? It was like Evan Hansen.
Dear Evan Hansen?
I wanted to see it, but is he gay? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And I remember like, you can't go see that because he's like, gay. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I can't. By the way, just on your way home, you should just go to the Dear Evan Hansen playlist. I can't listen to more than a couple of minutes before I start weeping.
Oh, really?
It is so intense and powerful.
Wow.
Especially for queer people. It is like, oh my gosh. So definitely Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
Everybody. But I think part of forming beliefs that help you be the best version of yourself, you have to open yourself up to wherever you find truth. Right? And that's in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious for you, is there been an unexpected place that you found something that felt really true and you're like, oh, like a place that like you never would have listened to or read or maybe gone, that you were like, oh wow, I remember one of the first times for me, I was in college and our college had a endowment that they every year brought a poet in to read poetry, but also spend time with like English students and stuff. And the poet that they brought in eventually became the poet laureate of the United States.
Oh, okay.
Her name was Joy Harjo.
Mm-hmm.
And and she was like, had this like Native American heritage, wasn't a Christian. Like, I never would have read any of her poems. And she has this poem called Eagle Poem, and it's kind of about prayer in this Native First Nations sort of perspective. And it changed everything. Like, I cried when she read it.
Wow.
And I remember that was a moment for me of like, because I think I was a freshman, and I was like, oh wow, maybe there's truth outside of me.
100%. And actually, my story has to do with music. And so I very much have been very musical like my entire life. And I had never been to a non-Christian concert up until I was like 20 years old or 21. Actually, I just went to a non-Christian concert, I think a year ago. It was my first time because I was like, I can't listen to this stuff. But I went to an Aventura concert. They're a bachata band, you know, from New York. And I remember going to these, and most of the concerts I went to very much like had worship. I felt like, oh, we were connected as one, like we're having some spiritual experience. And like, I just felt very much like connected to God. But in this concert, we were singing songs that I grew up listening to, like bachata songs. And I felt the same way. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is not something that's only with like, I guess within a Christian environment, but I felt that connectedness to my other friend, like other people in the arena that were singing, and we were just like bonding together through music. And I felt that same feeling that I would feel when I would be in a Christian concert. Of
transcendence.
Yes. I'm like, I really feel like, I mean, the hot take or not, but one of the things I deconstructed was like worship and why it works so well. I do think there's a lot of, you know, musical manipulation going on with the type of chords that you select and like what it is, like the pads that start, right? It's very much creating this environment that makes you feel some type of way. And so I studied music in undergrad as well. So I very much, but yeah, I think there's like I don't think those experiences as they make you believe are unique only to like the Christian environment. So.
Yeah. You know, now that you said that, I, you know, very recently in terms of my life, I had a friend, invite me to go to this like dance club, and, which is not something I ever did is in the evangelical world. Right. And so we went, and it was like a small venue, but it was like a DJ, and there was a ton of people in there. Yeah. And they were playing like bangers. Yeah. Like from all the decades, right? They played like Chapel Roan. And then they played like, they played Queen. And then they played like, they just went hit after hit. And people were like, because it was songs that like you can't not know the lyrics to. Everybody was screaming, jumping, dancing. Yeah. And it was that, I remember on my way home, I was thinking, wow, that is as good or better than any camp or worship or any kind of experience. And I think that like that experience of transcendence is like part of the human experience. Yeah. Like, it's part of who we are. And I've just been pondering all of that, because I think like what you're talking about is like, with the like worship music, right? Like, tell me what's the method, right? Because you were the worship leader. So like, we're leading somewhere. Yes. Hopefully to altar call confessions, but like, where do you start? How do people walk in the room, first song, right? What do you do? You
know, first we start off with prayer. We want to get people in the spirit, right? Worshiping. then you start
But prayer with music behind it?
Yeah, so we're already starting the beginning of the song, right? So exactly. So we start praying, we start singing the songs. Of course, towards the end of the set, when we're trying to get into altar call, we come down a bit, right? The instrumentals just played, the drums drop out, the pads start up, you know. So it's very much creating
and pads are like that keyboard sound, like ring.
Yeah, where it's just like that note sustaining for a while, and you can play over it, and so it's filling the room with this ambiance, right? I guess I connect that to a spiritual experience. I don't know. That's just what I've heard my entire life. And so, and then you start feeling like, okay, like whatever, and then maybe they'll read a confession, or, you know, you start praying, like, if you need to, today is a day to open up your heart and, like, you know, ask God for forgiveness, and you need to repent or do whatever it is that they'll talk about. And you start getting, I mean, I have cried so many times during worship, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
And that's, I think, so the difference between what was the name of the band that you went to the concert? Aventura.
Yeah.
Difference between Aventura and a dance club.
Yeah.
And worship is that somebody's using that to accomplish a purpose.
Right.
Whereas this is they're just having this experience.
Right.
Right. And I guess trying to sell, covers or cover charge or drinks or you know, CDs, downloads. So yeah, and sort of like to go back, you don't have these experiences when you're guarding your mind, right?
Because I was high strung all the time, you know. I was just like, I need to watch what I'm listening to, you know.
Never go to a concert.
No.
Never go to a dance club.
No, yeah.
Right. But I mean, I'm curious, like, now having broken out, what are you learning about life, about being a human by polluting your mind with all of these?
No, but I think if anything, what I've taken away, it's like, wow, I felt so alienated from the world. Like, I'll never be able to be like them because I was taught I was so different.
Yeah.
But I realized the human experience connects us all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so I think a lot of people can benefit from, like, listening to music. I'm like, we're all just trying to enjoy, you know, there's nothing wrong with listening to a song that's not Christian, or watching a movie, or just doing life. Like, I think I was afraid to do the things or people find joy in, because I'm like, this isn't Christian. Is this going to honor God? You know?
Right.
Like, we're just humans trying to enjoy, like, what we have here. Nothing is wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. And I think for me, it broadens, like, I don't know, my idea of what God is.
Yeah.
And my idea of what, like, being... I mean, one of the things that I talk about a lot is that your beliefs should help you become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And when that is, and so I guess you miss out on all kinds of best versions of yourself.
Yeah.
When it's so narrow.
100% agree, right? I think music has definitely been a way for people to express frustrations with society in general. And so when I had met my boyfriend, he showed me all this music that, one, my mother was like, you know, AC/DC, that's the devil's music, right?
It was called, the Hells Bells said that stood for
anti-Christian devil music.
Antichrist Death Child.
Oh,
so this is the Hell's Bells. We're even more extreme.
Right.
But so AC/DC, no, that's the devil's music for
or
sure.
Like stuff like, and I would group that with, like, bands like the Wonder Years, or, like, bigger names. Like, I didn't listen to Nirvana. Like, that wasn't
Metallica.
No,
what?
my mom, because a lot of people would associate metal music to, like. But like, these associate, let's be for real, because where do these associations come from? Somebody decided to put a label on this. It has nothing to do with anything, right? Yeah. And so,
and that's also like a lot of metal music is very, like, it has, like, this sense of, like, anger or rage or injustice or like darkness, and all of those things are part of, like, what it means to be human.
Right.
and like important to explore.
Well, I think that's why it's so radical, because we're taught not to trust our emotions, right?
Right.
Because the heart is deceitful. Who, above all else, who can possibly know it?
Right.
You can't trust your emotions.
You're just quoting those. You're like dropping those Bible bombs right now.
Well, this is like stuff that was
Like,
ingrained
yeah.
for so long, you know? And like, I remember when Peter Scazzaro, I don't really know his name, but he's a pastor, and he dropped a book called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality.
Oh,
and
right.
that was like, oh, actually, God gave us emotions. We shouldn't ignore them.
Yeah.
Which is why I think you would fear people being like, you can't be angry. You can't be upset.
Right.
You have to just trust and not listen to your emotions, which so many issues with that, first of all, right?
Yeah.
Because your gut is telling you something for a reason. You should listen to it.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so that type of music, you know, when he would show me a lot of the music he'd listened to, which I very much categorize as white boy music.
No. Fair.
Yes,
Fair.
but it would be talking
AC/DC,
about right,
Nirvana.
Like, he listened to like Hot Mulligan and like The Story So Far. I don't know if you know
Right,
these
right,
bands,
right.
but anyways,
White boy music.
Yeah, a lot of these bands would be talking about injustice of society
Yep.
or issues with their life, how they were depressed and like why.
Yep.
Just music I hadn't listened to, and I'm like, and he really connected with it. And so
Yeah.
it was kind of listening to a whole other world that I hadn't been exposed to.
Right.
People just being upset with what's going on in society. I mean, art is a way to protest about what's going on in society,
Right.
you know?
And like art is a way to understand and experience nuance and like broaden your experience of it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like, you miss out on being a human. Like,
Yeah.
and like, I feel like you miss out on forming beliefs. You miss out on like all of this really important stuff around all kinds of issues that like we don't talk about.
Yeah. 100%.
And like, well, this is a whole other episode, but like sexuality in music,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, there are like misogynistic, really awful things in some music, and that's something that is important to be aware of. But like sex and all of that, like,
Yeah.
again, art helps you understand and explore, and like that's really important.
Definitely for someone developing too, because
Yeah.
you know, when you're just shoved down beliefs and you can't critically think for yourself, then you find yourself in situations like me where you're deconstructing at a way older age than
Yeah.
you should be.
Right.
You know, where I'm like, I could have done this earlier and could have formed my beliefs, and here I am having to go backwards at
Yeah.
an older age. So I think that stuff's very important. And if I ever have children, I want them to critically think and expose them to all the music and media. I mean, within age appropriate, of course.
Of course.
But let them just like learn, you
Yeah.
know, because even with like censoring media, like, oh, we can't watch this because there's a gay couple in it,
Right.
or it's like, why? You're trying to censor me from gay people exist, whether you try to block it off or
Yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah.
you know? So yeah, so
Well,
many
and
issues.
a lot of it is like it's stopping you from understanding or experiencing anything,
yeah,
which kind of stunts your growth, because like a lot of queer people, for example, that were like shielded from all of that.
yeah,
Right. Part of the reason they couldn't fully come out to themselves until later in life is because they didn't watch Will and Grace.
right,
Right. They didn't watch these like characters and be able to say, oh, wait a second, that's me.
right.
Because art also helps us understand who we are.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I just saw a video in my class. I had a student come in who was giving a presentation about media representation, and she was looking specifically at like Latino representation in media. And this parent was saying it was the first time that Moana, like a Disney show, had
Yeah.
an Asian character
Yeah.
that looked like their kid. And he was getting emotional. Like, I want my kid to see representation
Yeah.
in media. It matters so much to see
Yeah.
yourself to be represented in these platforms, right? Because we look
Yeah.
up to these superheroes, but are they white or are they another ethnicity?
Right.
Are they other sexuality? Is it different, or you know?
Yeah. I remember when the movie Black Panther came out.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I loved it. I at that time I was just going to the movies with my friends all the time,
Right.
and they all loved superhero movies, so we would go see every one of those movies, and it was great. I enjoyed it, and then I had this friend who is part of a denomination that is a primarily African American denomination, and we and he invited me to like a big like convention to be on a panel discussion, but I was going to be there for the whole time. So I got to the convention center. I went to the first like worship service, and over and over throughout the whole week, because this is like a couple of months after the movie came out, they were saying Wakanda. They were doing the like crossing their arms thing that the Wakandans did like over and over. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like I talked to my friend about it, and I was like, he's like, white boy, like, this is the first black superhero movie. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Right? Like, representation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that being such a big, actually, I'm wearing the shirt of the program I was a part of where I met with them and we had talked about this movie and like what it did for black representation and ideologies about blackness in general. I mean, showing this part of Africa that's wealthy and like the superhero being like the hero.
Technologically advanced, not like backwards, you know.
Because our media representation is pretty bad at representing other third world continents and countries. I mean, same thing with there's an agenda about El Salvador, just only what you know about El Salvador in the past 20 years, gangs, right? But El Salvador is way more than that. In the same way that the continent of Africa is way more than poverty and what we hear about. So I remember us having large discussions about this was such a big deal. Yeah. And yeah, it was crazy. It was an amazing movie. I'm a very big Marvel fan, so I loved it.
Okay. Yeah. And I think for me, again, this is this idea of if you separate yourself from that kind of stuff, you miss out on your own identification, like your own learning who you are and being empowered. That's really, again, I am a white guy. So I'm just owning that. But when I was in that space, it felt like there was like that movie was offering empowerment and identity for them. And if they had not watched the movie, they would miss out on that because of Jesus. Right.
Well, I also was just thinking as you were saying that, I guess there really isn't a push for you to learn from media in general because we already know your identity. It's in Christ. That's all you need to know, right? And so you don't need to actually explore that because we've given you everything. Right. And so, yeah, that's also harmful because what happens when now that comes under question, you're questioning everything of who you are, right? And who you want to be.
Sure. Okay, so let us cause some people to sin. Okay. Right now, we've talked. We ended talking about secular music, secular movies, guarding your mind. So I'm gonna ask you to do this, but I'm gonna give you. I didn't give you a heads up. I'll go first.
Okay.
But 3 music albums that currently you're enjoying and that you feel like people should listen to.
Albums.
And
okay.
I am going to I'm going to do some from the queer perspective, because these artists are all really important. And whether or not if you're a queer person, you already know these people. If you're not listening to this, it can help you like really sort of understand and identify and anyway, explore. First one is an artist named Fletcher, and the album is called In Search of the Antidote. And she is this like lesbian icon that is everything. I actually got to see her this year. I went to this concert with a couple of lesbian friends, and it was like thick with lesbians. Like I was one of maybe like, it was like a crowd of 500, 1,000, and I was one of maybe 20 male identifying people, and and I think one of those people was straight. It was great, and her music, it explores. Obviously, there's a lot of like romance and like what it means to experience romantic love as a queer woman, but it's very poppy. So it's not like her with a guitar, singing out of her diary. It's like a band. It's sort of like rock pop. So that's her. Second one, it's Rush by Troye Sivan. So he is a gay artist. He got his start on YouTube. He followed the like Justin Bieber path of like YouTube stardom. This album has exploded, and it's exploded in the queer community because there is so much truth in it, right? Mm-hmm. One of the songs is about poppers. Like one of that's the title song. One of the songs is about meeting someone who is older and him trying to become the person that person wants. And it's amazing. He is amazing. I've not seen him in concert. He's going to be one of the World Pride Music Festival artists.
I was just looking at World Pride. Yeah.
Keep thinking about buying a ticket, but we'll see. And then,
you should.
I know. And then, the last one is, and people probably already have listened to this, but it's Diary of Midwest Princess by Chappell Roan. And this is where Hot to Go and Pink Pony Club and but it is very queer.
Yeah.
And even though the songs are breakout popular, everybody loves them. If you listen to it through that lens and listen to what it's talking about in this experience of life, man, it's the whole album is brilliant. And I've already said it before, but I'm obsessed with her. So, okay, those are my 3 Causing You to Sin albums. You go for it. What are we going to do here?
Yeah, so maybe mine aren't so sentimental as yours, because I literally just started listening to non-secular music. It's been a year and some change for me. And so I've really just been enjoying music that I would listen to on the radio that I want to listen to more.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
So I'll say I am basic and really like Alex Warren. His most famous song
I'm not familiar with that.
Is Ordinary. It's all over TikTok, but it's very much a song. Honestly, I think he's religious, so he does have I think he's Christian, and a lot of it has undertones of but the whole vibe of the way the song develops is kind of how worship music develops, which I think is why I think it's something familiar, but his album is You'll Be All Right, and so he has a lot of songs on there like Ordinary, and there is I should have had this beforehand. He has a lot of songs in there that are really good and that I've really enjoyed.
You know what we should do?
Yeah.
We should make a Spotify playlist of these albums and put it in the show note links.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
We'll definitely. I'm old, so I'm gonna.
Yeah.
You can collab with me on that.
But so I say he has other songs like Chasing Shadows, Before You Leave Me, Carry You Home. They're just all really nice vibes, make me feel good songs that I like to put on.
Yeah.
And so he's great. I've enjoyed his music. And also Ordinary is a love song. I'm I want this at my wedding. It's just been nice to listen to other artists who are in love. And I get to
I know,
share
it's so
in that.
Great.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And then the next one is one that's just nostalgic for me. And it's, again, Aventura. I've always been their biggest fan. They have I'm about to say this in Spanish, but the album is called Todavía Me Amas, Lo Mejor de Aventura, which just means You Still Love Me, the best of Aventura. So it's a collection of all their songs that they play, but it's in an album.
Like a greatest hits kind of.
Yes. And
that's cool.
Every single one is a great hit. And so if you like bachata, I would just definitely listen to it. It very much is
even if you don't do, just listen to good music.
Yeah.
And Aventura is a really great. I've heard a couple of their songs. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I also love to dance, so it's always puts me when I clean, it puts me in the mood. The last one is also kind of basic of me, but I've been really listening to the soundtrack from the Wicked movie. And, you know, this movie was very much emotional for me just because I related to the Elphaba character so much, especially towards the end when she was fighting against these people telling her to be a certain way and she was resisting, and then they put blame on her. And then the song that gets me is Defying Gravity, because when she sang,
I cry every time I hear it.
No, if you were to put it on right now, I would start crying. I tried to listen to it at the bus stop and I literally started sobbing and the bus is filling up.
Don't do that to yourself.
Especially because she was like, you know, if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free.
Don't even stop. You gotta stop.
I know.
I'm getting misty.
I know. Who turned on the waterworks? I was cutting onions. But no, I have really enjoyed that. Like, I love musicals in general. I really love musical theater, and so I have definitely enjoyed that. Entire album is so good. I can't wait for part 2 to come out.
Yeah. Now that you said that, I've got to add one.
Please.
Because at this moment in American history, I need something to help me get through it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the soundtrack to Hamilton.
I love Hamilton.
I know. It's also some of my go-to karaoke songs.
I love it.
But I love it. Like, I love all the things.
Yeah.
And it's a very honest, like, look at American history and culture.
Yeah.
And yet there is, like, even though it's honest and complicated, and Hamilton is messy and not okay and makes lots of mistakes, like humans do. Right? It's still really hopeful. And again, at the end, there's several songs that make me cry, but there's the one where they talk about who's going to tell his wife's story.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I can't think about it. I'm going to cry right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like, for me, like, I listen to the songs I really love.
Yeah.
I love My Shot. I love Guns and Ships.
Yeah.
I love all of the King. Oh my gosh, he's so great. But when I have a long thing that I'm going to be in a car for a long time, I'll just go beginning to end, hear the whole story, and cry and cry and cry. But yeah, that one really helps me.
Yeah. I love that. I haven't listened to all the album, but I need to.
Yeah. So next road trip.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. And so we've got this thing, and you know what? Today, if you think about it, if I think about it, we should post in Not Church and ask people to lead each other astray.
Oh yeah,
with secular music.
I love that.
Yeah. But because Not Church is this, like, really cool community that we are part of, that it's like church, except people aren't telling you you're going to hell, and we talk about religious things. We also hold space for each other. Like, Easter was a hard time.
Yeah,
we're recording. You'll hear this. It'll sound weeks late, but Easter was a hard time for people, and there was a lot of checking in and holding space for people dealing with that in lots of different ways. Some people going to church, some people not for the first time. And if you're interested in that, it's $3 a month because you just pay for what you get. If it works for you, it's totally worth $3. If it doesn't, it's fine. Just stop paying. So you can go to patreon.com/skepticpastor, patreon.com/skepticpastor. That'll get you to the Not Church. And it's on Discord. It's fun. Yeah. And look at the show notes, because the Spotify playlist is going to be there, and that's going to be fun. And also, because we actually put some extra effort into the show notes, this is the perfect time to leave us like a 5-star review and say something happy about us. Maybe just say, like, they recommend good music. I don't really care. The stars and the text just help people find us. All right.
That's it. That's the podcast. Shout out to the Choir Network, to Patheos, to Matthew and Keith, who make everything happen. Now, get out of here. Go do something to make the world a better place. Okay? We'll see you next time.